All right, I think at this point we might as well get started. I want to respect everyone's time. So to start, again, thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time out of your day to see what we have to show you today. I hope you are all excited, I know we are, to showcase the new PropertyPort system. In fact, I'm not sure if anyone on the line has ever heard my voice or heard my name, but this is Justin White from Connexio, the manager of client services here. I'm joined also, of course, you just heard Janine Gresco, one of our client relationship managers, also joined by Alex Berger and Jonathan Berger, no relation, both client relationship managers as well. And again, sit back. Hopefully you enjoy what you see, and please do feel free to ask any questions at any point. We're definitely very excited to know what you think. So at this point, Alex, I'd like to hand it over to you to walk us through this.
Sure. Thanks, Justin. So thank you, everybody, for joining. As Justin mentioned, my name is Alex Berger. For those of you who don't know me, I'm another client relationship manager here. And I'm going to be taking you through the new version of PropertyPort today. Again, just to reiterate what Justin just said briefly, please feel free to jump in with any questions or feedback, for that matter. If there's something you see that you like, or something you see that you don't see that you'd like to see, please let me know, and I can either address it or take you to that part of the system. So feel free to interrupt me as often as you see fit. One thing before we dive into the specifics of the system that I just want to highlight is that the redesign that we've done for PropertyPort is really is guided by the principle that we want to increase efficiency on all fronts. So everything you see and all the changes that we've kind of implemented have really been targeting our end users and managers, for that matter, to do more with less clicks within the system. We want to increase visibility and increase the user experience for you guys, so that you can accomplish more with less time. So with that in mind, we're in the system, and I'm assuming everybody can see my screen, but we've got a familiar page in our desktop layout here that you can see. You may notice that the page looks a little bit different, though. There are actually three main sections of the screen now in PropertyPort. We've got our main desktop view here, which is our kind of main viewing area. We've got this left-hand panel that we have been referring to as the control panel, and essentially this is where all the navigation in the system will take place. And when you click on anything in the control panel here, it'll populate on the right-hand side over here. And then lastly, we have this upper menu bar up at the top here, and the menu bar is really there for kind of system-wide navigation. So things like analysis and reports is up here, settings and config is up here. This symbol actually denotes our new portal feature, which we can get into in more detail kind of offline with your CRM if you're interested. But essentially, it will be a way for our clients to now have access to their sponsors through this portal. So basically, it's a way to communicate with your clients directly through a web interface. And then, of course, we have our imports. And this is an icon that everybody might find familiar. It's our Actions interface, or our Actions section. We now have that incorporated right up here. So one thing I didn't mention about this main part of the screen, and you may have been able to pick up on it briefly, but you can see that the desktop is actually contained in a little tab here. One of the main changes we've made to the layout of PropertyPort in the new version is we've switched to a tabular viewing screen on the right. So when you click on information from the control panel, it will actually populate in a new tab on the right. And you can have up to 5 tabs open at once before it starts kind of just getting rid of whatever your leftmost tab is. Basically, the reason for this is we found that a lot of the feedback we got from our clients was centered on the fact that they were frustrated that they had to always navigate back and forth between screens, actually being able to keep two pieces of information on separate screens kind of open at once. For instance, if you were working on a lead in particular for one company, for Dunkin' Donuts, for instance, but somebody called you from Sprint or something like that, and you wanted to open that up without losing your place in Dunkin' Donuts. You'll now be able to actually open up Sprint's profile page while maintaining Dunkin' Donuts up as well, and you don't lose your place in the system. For managers, it'll be great to reference reports or something like that without actually having to navigate away from whatever you're doing previously. With that being said, we can move kind of into the control panel and kind of talk about some changes we've made within the sections of the system themselves. First and foremost, you'll notice that we have fewer sections in general in the system. We now have the CRM section, the asset section, which of course references kind of the current day or present day inventory part of the system, and then we still have proposals. We're going to start in the CRM as it's the most natural place to start in the system, given that everything in the system revolves around your sponsors and your contacts. Of course, leads are derived from your sponsors and your contacts, proposals reference sponsors and contacts, so on and so forth. One of the major changes we've made to CRM with that in mind is we've pulled sponsors in to the CRM section. Currently in PropertyPort, the sponsors section is in what is now called My Property, and then you have contacts, leads, and call lists in the CRM. So one of the big changes we've made is to actually include sponsors into the CRM section, which seems to be a much more natural place for it to live. We're going to jump actually into sponsors really quickly, and I'm going to pull up an example, because one of the other main changes that we've made to the CRM, and really the system as a whole, this impacts the system as a whole, is we've developed essentially a hierarchy within the system for presenting information. So if I pull up a given sponsor, in this case Duff Beer, for any of you Simpson fans out there, you'll see that on the right-hand side I pull up Duff Beer's profile. At the top we've got the name here. Of course we've got sponsor details just like we would in current day PropertyPort. And down on the bottom here we have notes. However, if I minimize the sponsor details by clicking at the top of the sponsor details bar here, you'll see that I actually am presented with an overview of all of the activity or items, I guess you could say, within the Duff Beer profile. I've got the sponsor details, of course, but I also have some contacts in here related to Duff Beer. I have the Duff Beer lead in this case, or if there were multiple leads, they would all be listed here, and then you can see we've got 2 proposals listed here as well. And by presenting the information, or all the information related to a given sponsor within this sponsor profile page, we feel that navigation should be much quicker, and it should be much easier to find anything you could possibly need related to a given sponsor. Really quickly, I mean, we took a look at the sponsor details page there. We can now go into a contact details page. Not much has really changed here. Of course, you've got all your data points in here. As you can see, notes is going to be on the bottom still. This is, the one thing to note about notes is no matter where you are in the system, if you're navigating to a proposal or you're navigating to a contact or a lead, notes will always appear on the bottom locked in here. So that's a subtle change maybe from current day PropertyPort, where sometimes when you go to a sponsor page, you add notes by going to the upper right-hand corner and clicking. When you go to a contact page, it's on the bottom of the page. So to maintain some consistency, we've locked it in on the bottom here. And of course, it'll update no matter, depending on what you're looking at in the top section of the page. Another main change that we've made throughout the system is, and this applies system-wide, it's not just for the CRM or just for a contact profile page, but you may notice that all of the individual data points here are orange. We've implemented a new piece of functionality which we refer to as click-to-change or click-to-edit fields. And what's fantastic about these fields is now to change information for a given field, all you have to do is click on the field, change the information, and then click away. So we've done away with the current day model where there are edit buttons that bring up a secondary screen that allow you to make changes and click save. And shifted to this much quicker version where it's simply click to change, click away, and the changes are made and locked in. To be honest, Janine and I have started using this version, and even within our office, it is far easier to use, and we've actually been really enjoying it. So let me pause for a second there and see if there are any questions related to kind of the new hierarchical format of the CRM and, anything I've discussed at this point. Okay. So now, before moving on to leads and proposals and some of the other sections of the system, I really want to take a step back, actually, and talk about the control panel in a little more detail. When I searched for Duff Beer, you see I went to the sponsors section of the CRM here, and you may have noticed that we've got a little bit of a change in these subsections of the CRM. It used to be contacts, leads, and call lists. You can see we've done away with call lists for now, and we'll get there in a second, and now we've incorporated an all tab. So what's fantastic about the all tab is, quick down and dirty searching is very easy. From the all, you'll be able to reference sponsors, contacts, anything like that, and you'll be able to pull them up. We've also changed the way we've done filters in the new version of PropertyPort. You can see we have this filters drop down, and for all there aren't too many options, but let's go into leads as an example. And now within filtering, we've incorporated more flexibility in what you're able to filter by. Of course, you have the option, to filter by the standard data points that we always had: manager, lead type, that kind of thing, with leads in mind. But now you can actually select multiple managers or multiple options, I should say, at once. So I can now search by both my leads and Janine's at once, whereas in current day PropertyPort you'd have to select one or the other. Of course, you would also be able to select multiple data points at once to filter by as well. So if we wanted to see sponsorship leads for both myself and Janine, we can do that. One other thing to notice in the filtering capabilities, and this is true across the system, not just for leads, is that we've incorporated custom variables or custom data points into filtering as well. So now, if you create some sort of custom variable, such as test integer in this case, or test date, you would be able to filter by that data as well. And that's a really big change that we've made to the filtering of the system. And we feel it's a massive added value in that there's a reason you guys create those custom variables, and there's a reason you want that information, and it'd be nice to be able to filter by it. Once I've established the criteria for my filter, all I have to do is click Update Filters, and you can see I've produced my list here. You may have noticed that the filtering criteria has actually been listed for each individual filter that I've placed on this list up at the top here. Archived was actually already predeterminedly being filtered for, so that we didn't pull up anything that was in the archive. And to get rid of filters, all I have to do is click the little X next to it, and it'll generate, it'll go away, essentially, and my main list will be there again. So you'll see these filters, this filtering mechanism with the little drop down here all throughout the system. It's true in sponsors and contacts, of course, as well as proposals and even assets. Sponsors we took a look at. There aren't too many changes in this section. Of course, we've got the text box filtering in all these sections as well, but I'm going to skip ahead to contacts. And I mentioned before that one of the major changes we made to the layout of the CRM is that we no longer have call lists as a subheader here. Instead, what we've done is we've taken call lists and we've folded it into the contact section. And the reason we did that is because, in the end of the day, a call list is really just a list of contacts. And we felt that having it within this contact section is a more natural home for it. You can see by when I click this call list button, it brings up all of our call lists that have been created, and you can see here that it gives you kind of a snapshot view of the status of a given list. So, in this demo with SD list here, we've got 12 no action items and a couple attempted and a couple failed and so on and so forth. When I open up the list, you'll see it actually functions kind of similarly to the way filters does. The call list that I'm in is represented on the top of the menu bar here, and here are all the contacts in my list. What's fantastic about this is, as I click on each contact now, I can see the full contact profile of that person. as well as leaving notes and anything else. Currently in PropertyPort, you get a kind of a snapshot or distilled view of the contact's information in the call list section, and we really wanted to make sure that you had access to absolutely everything you could want when you're using call lists now, as well as a complete history of notes and stuff like that. Of course, you still have the ability to label the status of the call using these little icons here, and those will be, as I mentioned when I pulled up the call list here, that's what's represented in these icons here. So you can still track call statuses like that. One of the other major changes that we made to call lists is we made it much easier to create call lists, and we give you a lot more flexibility. If you have any experience with call lists now in PropertyPort, you'll know that you're kind of limited with the number of filters you can use in order to generate a list. You can't really add one-offs, one-off people to lists and stuff like that. So one of the things we decided to do was really allow you to use the filters themselves within the contact section to represent what you want in your call list. So anything, any data points that you might want to sort by, or even if you want to sort by a particular name, you can look that person up and add them specifically to a call list. Just one of the major changes that we've made to that functionality to give you a lot more versatility. That being said, are there any questions at this point with the CRM structure or filtering or call lists or any of that stuff?
Not right now.
Excellent. Well, one thing that I probably could have mentioned when I talked about the quick edit or quick click to change fields within the system now is that we've also allowed these fields to be updated across the entire system in real time. So whenever anything is changed in one of these fields or a note is added or something like that within the system, you may be familiar with present day where if a change is made to a contact's profile or something like that and someone else in your organization is looking at the screen on a different computer at the same time, that person would need to refresh his or her screen in order to see that change reflected. Not anymore. Now with the click to change fields and a lot of the other functionality too, it's not just click to change actually, it's also actions in the system and stuff like that. It all updates in real time. So if a change is made, what you'll see is a little, the field will actually flash, kind of like when I save a given field here. So if I add an initial, it kind of flashes that yellow and gives me the check mark. If one of my colleagues was looking at Joe 1111 here, they would see that change flash on their screen as well. Again, all in an effort to keep everybody on the same page and keep everybody apprised of what's going on in the system.
Does that hold true for the note section when you update a note? It seemed like in the old system when you had a past due action that then once you've called somebody, it didn't update back on the desktop page until you refreshed, essentially.
Yep, it should hold true everywhere in the system. So, for instance, you can see I have a past due action here,
yep.
And if let me go in there and actually look at it because I'm not sure where I left it, but so I just clicked on my past due link up here, and it brought me right to the action section and to that actual action in the system. So, of course, now from here I have a couple options. I can either close this action out from right here, or I can link back to the contact where this note was actually left. If I click on it, it brings me right back here, and here is that past due action right here. So now, when I close this action out, if you look at right up here, what will happen is I now have nothing past due.
Right.
So it should hold true that for actions, notes, stuff like that, it should all update in real time, and you'll be able to keep track on a regular basis without having to worry about updates.
Okay.
That's one of the advantages actually to moving to this tabular kind of layout here, is that we no longer have to refresh the page in order to move to different places in the system. So in order to make that, functional, it made sense to move to this real-time updating strategy.
Okay.
Any other questions on the real-time updates or anything else within CRM?
No.
Okay, cool. Let's see here. As far as leads are concerned in the system, not much has really changed. You still have all of your data points on the left-hand side here. You've got your lead contacts, statuses, and stuff like that. Same thing with proposals, although we'll get there in a few minutes. They look very much the same as they do now, and of course now you have access to them directly from the CRM section. If you need to find something, you can always sort or go into the CRM and see it directly from, a sponsor's profile page or look up in your contacts to see who you need to, if you know that you have a proposal attributed to a specific client or sponsor or a specific contact, you can you can find it directly from within the CRM. With that being said, I'm going to move on briefly to assets here, and we'll just talk about a little bit of some of the layout differences here. Not too much has changed, to be honest, in assets, but for anybody who's familiar with inventory now, the folder structure here should seem fairly similar. One of the main changes that we've made is when you actually go into a folder, the contents of that folder are going to be displayed underneath in the bottom half of the screen here. Instead of right now in PropertyPort, you would see them on the top half of the right-hand side of the page. And what's nice about this is now when you open up a given asset, you now have the entire right-hand display side of the screen to see the information related to that asset. So we've kind of tried to give a more user-friendly experience when you're opening and viewing this information. It's kind of not scrunched down into half the screen on the right-hand side. As far as the asset details, it should look fairly similar to what you see now. Obviously, the click-to-change fields are all apply here as well, as does those real-time updates. And you still have your season and event summaries and so on and so forth. We also do have the asset search view, where you can, like I mentioned earlier, filter in order to find assets, and of course you can sort, you can search by term as well or by name. This will become a little bit more obvious when we talk about proposals, which is where I'm heading next. And when we go to the proposals, or I should say this will become a little bit more obvious as to why this search functionality is really kind of nice to have when we talk about proposals. So let's go there now. And as I mentioned, you can go through the CRM in order to get to a given proposal. However, we left the proposal section in there because we know that there are some people who are, number one, very used to the tree view, and especially for managers as well as even end users who want to see which proposals have been created by which users. The proposal section gives that view. So now we can see, any proposals that I've created versus Janine or Colin or whomever. And of course, this is formatted very similarly to the way it is in current day PropertyPort. If I pull up the Duff Beer proposal, you'll notice actually that it shoots me right back into my Duff Beer sponsor tab that I had open already. So if I minimize this, you can see we're right back where we started. So it does link you to the same place in the end, but it gives you an alternate way of getting there. Now, I mentioned that the asset search functionality is going to come into play, and that's because we've redesigned the proposal section a little bit. You may notice that we have the tree view here, and we have proposal search, but we used to have we currently have an assets section within proposals. And that would be where you would go to find all the assets you want to include on a given proposal. Well, given that the assets section is a little bit more flexible now and that you can navigate to multiple places at once in the system, we felt that it really didn't make a lot of sense to have another assets section in the system. So instead, with regards to proposals, when you want to add assets, all you have to do is go into your inventory, search for whatever asset you're looking for a given proposal, and then drag and drop it onto the interface. So that part doesn't change. Still dragging and dropping assets onto proposals. You still have all the real-time updates of the pricing and absolutely everything. As far as the functionality goes, you can still customize proposals, customize all the pricing. None of that changes. The only thing that changes is there's one place to go if you're looking for assets within the system. And we felt that was a little bit of a cleaner approach.
Yep.
Let's see here. We also, one part kind of related to proposals is the absence of the performance section. Some of you may have noticed that, others might not have. We now no longer have a true performance section in the sense of, a tab in the system. Instead, what we've done is we've taken the performance section and folded it into proposals, because really the performance data is proposal data just after the proposal has been solidified into a deal and after the season has happened and you've activated all those assets. So any performance information at this point is now actually available in this icon here, this asset data icon. And of course, all of this is customizable as per usual. We can create any kind of data points you want, but these data points are the performance data points that you can pull into, a recap document or something like that. The difference, of course, would be when you go to build the document from here, you would be able to select from your recap document versus your proposal document, depending on which one you're looking to build. Let's see. At this point, let me pause again. Is there any questions on, or are there any questions on proposals or the layout between assets and proposals and kind of how we work performance in?
Nope.
All right, cool. So with that being said, I don't know that there is much else in the way of new functionality or new features to talk about, at least that you can see from a visual standpoint. One of the biggest changes that we've made to the system, and actually it might be the biggest change that we've made to the system for this new version, is we've built the new PropertyPort on top of a robust API. And what that means is we now have the ability to integrate with third-party applications. So, for instance, if you are using a ticketing system like Arctix or Ticket Return or something like that, we now have the ability to actually interface with that third-party application, and we can send data to and from the two systems. Of course, that's a major change from where we stand today in PropertyPort, where we don't have that functionality, and it's been, if you wanted to, integrate with something like that, it would be a lot of exporting and importing. Now we can have seamless integration, and we can send information at will between the systems. This is something that if you are interested in doing, you should connect with your respective CRM, and they will help you kind of determine the best process for setting that up. It may involve a little bit of a conversation just to understand what's, obviously what you're trying to achieve and so on and so forth, but it's a massive added functionality that we're extremely proud of and happy about here, and obviously affords our clients a lot more versatility. So with that being said, that pretty much sums up the major changes between current day PropertyPort and our new version here. From a kind of a global standpoint, I'll open it up for any questions at all, or feedback for that matter. If there's anything you saw that you particularly like, or anything you were looking for that you didn't see, please, let us know.
When does this become live, this new format?
Great question. So we are in the middle of actually putting together the timeline for transitions for most of our clients. However, we are more than happy to hear from you about when you would actually like to convert, because the last thing we want to do is spring this on you when you're in the middle of your sales cycle or something like that. So we can be extremely flexible as far as conversion necessities and what it takes to actually convert. There's very, very little that we have to do to move you from one system to another. It really comes down to the time investment is really in training your personnel just to make sure that everybody knows what's going on in the new system and feels comfortable. But from a data transition standpoint or anything like that, there's nothing that you have to worry about. It'll all be taken care of on our end, and it's a really seamless project. process. The only caveat to that is if you do have custom functionality that we've built out, whether it be custom reports or custom features in your PropertyPort system currently, those will have to be migrated over by our development team, but that's something, again, that you can work out with your CRM. So, technically speaking, we are just about ready to begin that conversion process. I would imagine that we'll actually start converting within the next few weeks. So circle back with your respective client services rep, and they will help pinpoint a day that works for you and a timeline that works for you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Any other questions?
No.
I guess we'll have more once we play around in the system some more.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, it goes kind of without saying, but if you do ever have any questions or if anything comes up that you want to discuss, feel free to reach out to your CRM, and they would be happy to help you with that.
Sounds good.
That's great. Thanks for putting this on.
Yep,
No
thank
worries. Our pleasure. Thanks a lot for coming.
you. Bye-bye.
Everybody have a good day.
You too.